Hello everybody, welcome again. Thank you all on ACIM Gather for joining us. And now thank you everybody who will be watching this video on YouTube. We're so glad you have tuned in to our Labor Day A Course in Miracles Community Voices here on YouTube. Please subscribe to our YouTube channel and watch all of our YouTubes lovingly prepared for us by our very talented and inspired Assistant Minister, Reverend Kelly. Yay! Okay, so Community Voices, we do these several times a year. This is when we invite people from the congregation, our ministers and others, to come up and share a little bit around a theme. Our theme today, of course, is Labor Day. Labor. Vocation. Hence the reading about vocation. So our first, we do these in alphabetical order. So our first speaker for today is the lovely and inspired Reverend Roxie Benson. Yay!
Okay, I love this topic because I don't work. But I'm in this place of just allowing all that I've given to now just to receive. And you know, I took A Course in Miracles everywhere I went. It didn't mean it, you know, there wasn't insanity. There was. I was only, but the part in the Course in Miracles where it says you're no longer wholly insane. So I'm like, I'm only 50% insane. But without, you know, without 16 years of Stockton Unified School District, my resurrection story is incomplete. Without the marriage, my resurrection story is incomplete. So being married to someone who worked for the military, actually the War Department. And so ways of looking at that, how there's resurrection, there's a crucifixion and there's a resurrection in everything. And so rather than going back, I'm reviewing my life, and while I still have a body, which is it's a really cool way to be taken through it, but I'm seeing that right next to all the times where I was whining crucifixion, there was the most beautiful resurrection story. And without all of the work, the Mormons that trusted me when I felt persecuted by some of them, but it was the Mormon women that treated me like I was worthy of God. And so without all of my work, I wouldn't be able to say that work is highly overrated. So, and that's where I'm at. But when I moved to San Francisco, I retired the second I could get a lifetime pension. And it's like probably 1/6 of what the techies make or what most people make in San Francisco, and they have 12 roommates. And I don't understand why. So I'm gonna live alone. Where can I get a bathroom and a kitchen and a bed? Tenderloin. So I live alone in this beautiful apartment that's like not the Tenderloin, in the Tenderloin. And I love the Tenderloin. It's perfect for me. I've been talking to myself my whole life. The Tenderloin, I fit right in. I just say, we got some friends inside. So work got me to be able to not work. So when I moved here with no money, I had to, my pension covers utilities and rent, that's it. There's inventory car insurance. And so I got this job based on the esteem of having a teaching credential. And the job was, rich people think you can tutor their child to genius. And it was torture. I hated it, and I hated myself for doing it to the kid. And my husband left his body, and I knew I was going to have some money, and I quit that job, and I have one job now. I do one thing right now. I work 1 hour once a month. And when I quit the tutoring job, I decided I'm no longer willing to sell my mind for money. So same thing as Mari, when but I thought that I had to get paid to have a spiritual job. So, and I wanted Kelly's job, and I am so glad that Kelly got that job. Because I wasn't right for the job. I wasn't skilled for the job, and I don't even ever want those skills, I decided. But she's done a beautiful job, and it's those things that you think are your salvation the most, and when they're gone, and you're like, God, thank you for having it be gone is your salvation. So the one job I'm doing, I'm willing to earn money taking care of dogs. I'm willing to earn money relationship counseling, and I'm willing to earn money doing the sex work that I do, pro dom. So I have one client, and one thing I'm just spending money. I'm burning through the savings. I'm doing whatever I want, and it's like I don't want to work. But this one client, this is the sweet kid, and I want to talk about my other work, the work that I'm doing now. And we Course in Miracles students might say that sex, you have to stop having sex or something's wrong with sex, but our sexual expression, if we don't bring innocence to every single aspect of our humanity, including that, we won't wake up. So I'm part of that. I'm part of the new Messiahs. And I will tell you, it is the sex workers, it's the gay, the lesbian, the trans, it's all of us, and it's the musicians, it's the people that are turning away from that sheep's dream, and they're saying, that's not our salvation. And so that's why I work 1 hour to create a sacred space for this young man to express the sexuality he likes in complete, total innocence. So I am God, he is God, I'm God, you're God, and that's the work I do now. So thank you, sex workers. Thank you for all that you've done to heal our sexuality.
Thank you, Reverend Roxie. Okay, so we do these in alphabetical order, and so...
You turned your lapel off.
Did I turn my lapel off?
You did.
Oh, I did. Okay, thank you, Reverend Roxie.
Yay!
We do these in alphabetical order, and so the next person I will call up here is the talented speaker, Al Gilbert. Never leave the podium, that's what Al taught me, so I'm not leaving the podium.
Thank you, Reverend Tony.
Never leave the podium.
Thank you, Reverend Tony. Happy Labor Day. Happy Labor Day weekend. Happy Labor Day day. Happy Labor Day heat. All the above. So let me start with a bit of trivia. Labor Day as a holiday started as a New York City holiday in 1882, I believe, to celebrate and acknowledge the value of the labor unions. Then it became a state holiday in New York City, New York State, and then I think 2 or 3 years later it was created by the federal government to be a federal holiday. Now, why is it on September, the first Monday in September, or the first weekend in September? Because the good minds at that time in Washington realized that there was a long drag between the 4th of July and Thanksgiving. So we needed a break. So this is it. I associate Labor Day with a lot of things. I associate Labor Day with rest and relaxation, reading, and I happen to notice this book. Whose book is this?
It's yours, Jared.
Is mine, dear?
Yeah.
Really?
You lent it to me. I'm making sure I'm giving it back to you.
Oh! All right. Well, did you enjoy this book?
I didn't get to read it, but I feel I've had it long enough. So.
I want you to have it. I want you to I want you to read it by the time I come back from the next community miracle.
Yeah.
But anyway, no, this is a book called Life and Times of the Thunderbolt Kid by Bill Bryson. It's written by a gentleman of my same age, of the the baby boomers, born in 1951. And it is the funniest book I have ever read. I mean, it's a wonderful celebration not only of our childhoods in this book, but also of the labor that our parents went through to get us through whatever they thought was they had to get us through. But if you've not read it, I highly recommend it. So Labor Day, also let's talk about work a little bit. I'm in sales. I sell contracts for a travel agency. And this is about the time of year that everyone kind of runs a score. And like the San Francisco Giants, my scorecard's not that great. So I have until the end of the year to make the playoffs, if you will. Mm-hmm. But I'm not worried about it because I have a choice of doing one of two things. I can either work hard or I can work smart. Mm-hmm. And I'm not interested in working hard. Mm-hmm. Working hard is this commitment. It is, but I'm going to work more hours. Mm-hmm. I'm going to make more phone calls. I'm going to crack the rock harder. I'm going to run faster. That's not, working hard doesn't produce results for me. So I'm focusing on how can I work smarter. So when I do make phone calls, what's a smarter phone call? Or if I do send out an email, what's a smarter message? And I think the answer for me is that instead of asking for something, which I normally do in sales, I'm going to give something. I'm going to give some advice. I'm going to give some love. I'm going to just ask people how they're doing. And I think we'll all come back. So I invite you to consider in your careers to work smarter, but don't work harder. It doesn't pay off. I had lunch the other day with a friend of mine, a school friend of mine, who again of similar age, and he was talking about retiring. And he's sort of a high-powered legal counsel for an organization. And he said, I just can't imagine retiring because my whole identity has been wrapped up in this, since the days he went to law school and his first and second jobs, and that's how he identifies himself. And I think it's an easy thing for all of us to do, because it's our ego. Mm-hmm. It's how we name our egos. I'm a salesperson, I'm a lawyer, I'm a doctor, I'm a social worker, I'm a minister, whatever it is. Well, that's not who we are. And so I have to remind myself to change my language. And the language usually in a social situation is you meet someone, and you exchange names, and then you ask, what do you do for a living? Right? Mm-hmm. And the answer usually is your profession. Well, that's not the answer. The answer is, for me, what do I do for a living? Well, I come to the Community Miracle Center not often enough. I walk my dog, I enjoy fine food, I enjoy fine wine. What I do for money is something else. So think about that. What you do for the so-called living is not assigned to your ego. So ultimately, we would all like to have a profession or a job that we can be passionate about. I mean, I like my work, but it's not a religious calling by any means. I guess we're not all as fortunate as Reverend Kelly and Reverend Tony to have a profession that they would do virtually for nothing if they could afford to. So I think it's important that if you don't have a job that you feel that passionate about, is to find something in the job that you can feel passionate about, and that will just bring me back to where I started. So in the weeks ahead, go do your work, be serious about your work, but don't be too serious about yourself, and work smart, don't work hard. Reverend Tony. All right.
Okay, thank you, Mr. Gilbert. Woohoo! Woohoo! Okay, our next speaker that I have the pleasure to call up here is a very important person in my life because we live together. We live in a shared living situation with another adult man. And I believe Reverend Peter and I, we're past 6 years now, right? Past 6 years. I thought he was just going to be there for a few months, actually, and now I can't get rid of him. He is definitely entrenched. No, I love living with Reverend Peter. He's great. It's great to live with another Course in Miracles student, and it's one of the blessings of my life that Reverend Peter is in the room right next to me. So let's give a nice round of applause for Reverend Peter Graham.
Thank you. Thank you, Reverend Tony. Am I on?
Yeah, you're on. You're just a little tall.
I'm tall. Yes, I am tall. Yes, it is a blessing to live with Reverend Tony. And right now, I usually think I have the best room in our apartment because I face the street and there's trees and I get the most sun. But yesterday it was 106 degrees. So I'm rethinking that whole idea. That's what we have to do. So anyway, we're here and we're talking about Labor Day and its meaning. And I always feel like, like Socrates taught us that we're in this life to become enlightened and awakened. And as I was listening to the first two speakers, Reverend Roxie and Al, it's helping me. It is a dialogue because it's making me think about. They're already making me think about my attitude toward what work means and what is work. And I actually shared the former profession of Reverend Roxie. Is that I'm also an educator, and I think I've been in education for 27 or 28 years now. I lost count. And at this time of year, I have what I call Reverend Roxie envy. Because it's always the hardest time of the year is to go back, and you wouldn't think it. Everyone says, oh, teachers have 3 months off. Well, I've never had 3 months off. I've always worked summer. I worked at probably 26 out of the 27 summers, or 25 out of 27, because I was, first of all, I got bored, and second of all, I usually needed the money. Anyway, so I've been thinking about this lately, and what come to mind is a quote from the Course. It's from the section of the Course called The Forgiving Dream, and I want to read it to you and talk to you about how it applies. So paragraph 6, starting with verse 4, goes as follows. The dream of judgment is a children's game in which the child becomes the father, powerful but with the little wisdom of a child. It continues, and bad things seem to happen, and he is afraid of all the chaos in the world he thinks is governed by the laws he made. Now, how does this apply to me? Well, I'll give you a little example. So I had the bright idea this year that I went into work early this year, my school year. I went in 4 days before anybody else did. And my thinking was, I have an administrative position at my workplace. I'm in charge of the special ed program at a large high school in San Francisco. And my thought was, I was going to go in and organize all the caseloads for the teachers that manage the students with special ed. I was going to organize the schedule and do everything. So I get in there, and it turns out that they've denied me an access to the student information system, which I used to always have, and that the master schedule that had been worked on for many hours by all of us did not work. There was a lot of problems with it. And so I was in there for 4 days working on all this, and my biggest accomplishment was that I got rid of half of the paper in my office. I actually threw out a lot of paper. So what I actually accomplished in those days going in, the best thing I did was my office is much more cleaner now. So that was my biggest thing. But and what my realization was this, is that all the best laid plans of mice and men, right? Is I realized that, this first 2 weeks of work was very chaotic. But it was my reaction to the work that was chaos. Like, as a Course in Miracles student, we know that the ego and the interpretations of the ego in our own little minds is often chaotic. So what I was experiencing, the effects I was experiencing from this situation of not having access to student information and schedules and so on and so forth, was a lot of kind of negative, catastrophic thinking. I was like, oh my God, how are we going to, the kids are going to come the first day of school or the first week. They're not going to have schedules. They're not going to have the support they need. With our students, they're supposed to have each teacher is supposed to get an education plan on how to support them in the classroom. So that's a big deal, blah, 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 all this stuff. And, and Reverend Tony mentioned that we are roommates. And at this time of year, our conversation usually goes like this. Reverend Tony says, "Hey, Reverend Peter, how are you doing?" And I'm like, "Ugh." And then I go from the kitchen into my room and I close the door and I just kind of survive in there. And so anyway, I was, as I was thinking about this talk and this quote, I realized that, well, as a Course in Miracles student, the truth is that my real work, if you will, underlying my work or my job, as to the previous speakers had talked about, is to be a miracle worker in my own life. And so my own work is to just listen to what my ego is saying. My ego is going to have its point of view. But then remember that it's just a dream. That remember that it's there to teach me to heal, right? That's what I'm there for. This is a dream. And it, as much as it sometimes feels so real, it feels so real. When you're in your ego and your buttons get pushed and you have parents and teachers and students, and the students tell me, they say, that as I do my lesson, the first thing they say to me is, they say, "This is boring." And I'm like, "Well, I teach Algebra 2. What do you expect?" You try to make this subject fun, okay? So anyway, you get all this stuff. But the truth of the matter is underlying my work. The real work is working with our minds and being willing and open to surrender to the Spirit. And when you do that, then we do become like children in our attitude, and we're open-minded, and we're playful, and we're joyful, and we're forgiving. And then, when we're in that attitude, we then get the wisdom of the Father, and of the Mother, and of God. That's it.
Yeah. Don't leave the podium. Okay, great. Thank you, Reverend Peter. I'm on. I don't hear me though. Thank you, Reverend Peter. Okay, I hear me now. Okay, so it is with great pleasure now that I will going to introduce our next speaker. He was very recently ordained, so we're very happy to have him now among the list of CMC ministers. And also, he recently found out that he's going to be a papa, and he was very happy and proud of that fact. So we congratulated him with that a couple of weeks ago. So let's give a nice round of applause to one of our brand new ministers, Reverend BHA.
Good morning, everybody.
Good morning.
This works.
Yeah, I'll take care of it. Don't worry. Just keep talking.
We here today to talk about work, and everybody knows that from one way or another in life we gotta do all kinds of works. We do physical work, we do domestic work, we do spiritual work, all kinds of work are involved in our lives. And lately I start to recognize that how much work makes me appreciate my life a little bit better in all kinds of aspects. For example, my timing. When I work a lot, my time is very limited to do things that I like, so I need to spend very wisely when I do that. My finances, and a lot of other things, my health, the progression through my journey in life. Working helped me a lot. Without saying that, for me who already have small problem with dependency in drugs and alcohol, work keep me out of those bad things that life can keep pushing you in your face all the time. So everything that we do is work, and after I got ordained, I just realized that I start to be more opening to oneness and to little holy moments that happen in my life. For those who don't know me, I work 2 jobs, customer service. One, I'm a server in a steakhouse, and at night I'm a bartender. So I like to share with you guys 2 quick stories that happened to me. One in my work at the evening, when as a bartender, and one in my work as a server to the daytime. So one day I come to work in my bartending job, and I usually open about 5 o'clock. And around 4:30, a very distinct gentleman just showed up at the bar, and he was well dressed and very polite. And he asked me what time we opened the bar. I mentioned to him at 5 o'clock, and he asked me if it wasn't possible for me to pour him a drink earlier, and I look at him, I said, yeah, that was fine, I could do that. So while I started opening the bar and making him drink, I just realized there was something more behind the situation of me meeting that gentleman. We start talking, and immediately some spark energy come through us, and he started sharing my life with him, with me, sharing his life with me. And I thought it was very interesting because he's about almost 7 years old, and he's a very popular and famous rock star from our old band, which the band doesn't really matter his name because it's not about the importance of who he is, but the miracle that happened at the moment. And while going through everything, in less than 10 minutes, he already had his drink, and he's sharing with me pictures of his entire life, the house that he grew up with, picture with his brothers, back when he was young, picture of him and his brothers now, where he lives now, and he shared also that he was only at that bar for that night for a wedding. So I thought it was interesting. At the meantime, I got close to him and I started sharing things of my life with him, and in this less than 10 minutes, we create this moment that is very unforgettable. At some point, he just started telling me that, based on my story, that he thought that I was the real deal, an immigrant that come and work hard in this country, and I thought that was very interesting to hear that from a client. I never heard that before. And I also told him that I never had an experience to get so intrigued about somebody's life without knowing them so quickly. So it was about time for him to leave. He mentioned to me that he'll never come back to that hotel because he lived in a farm in Colorado, 100 miles away from the closest town that he can have. But before he leave, he looked at me and he filled his eye with a tear, and he started crying and said, "This is a holy moment, we're never gonna see each other again." And for me, I thought it was very interesting because I never thought that could happen before I opened my bar, before the shift started, and I already had that holy moment. So that was very touchy for me, and I understand as a point of view, as a miracle worker, to be open to receive that from my side of the story. And then going through all the situations and this and that, I just realized that working, because I work so much, there's a lot of holy moments hiding there if I'm open to it, if I'm available to accept them. Then it became another situation that people who know me knows that I broke my foot a couple years ago, and I was going through a lot of difficult times. I couldn't walk for almost a year. And close by my house there is a gas station, the Sunset, which is a Chinese gas station, very small, only 4 pumps, and very, very slow. There's no business there. Being the closest one to my house, I go there all the time, and I became friends with this 23-year-old Filipino kid that is always there, very helpful. He's talking all the time. He likes skate, I like surf. We became close friends, and one day I show up with my broken leg, and he started to very aggressively. He started helping me. Every time I come there, he does the gas for me and everything. And then I remember the Thanksgiving weekend, I came over to put some gas, and he helped me with that. And I come up to him and I pay him, and I asked him what he would be doing for the holiday weekend. And he mentioned to me that he will be spending his whole weekend with his family. They're Filipino, and for them the whole weekend is a celebration from A to Z, so that he cannot leave his family for the whole weekend. So I looked really deep into him, and I told him, well, I want to wish you and your whole family a happy Thanksgiving. And that's when he, behind the counter, he looked at me, he filled up his eyes with a big tear, and he wanted to tell me happy Thanksgiving from me, from his family, but he couldn't, so he just hugged me, and he hugged me so hard that I also realized how it's important to accept a holy moment when you are with people working, not when I am working. So those are the two sides of the stories that I like to share with you guys. And more than anything, I do believe that the work dignifies a person. So as more as we work, no matter what kind of work we're doing, I think we're moving forward in our journey in our cosmic speed.
Okay, great. Thank you, Reverend Big Heart Alice. Okay, so the next speaker is our lovely Reverend Dusa Althea Rammessirsingh, who led us in the opening prayer, and always great that she comes up here and shares a few words with us, which has become a rarity now. So really happy to call her up here. So let's give a nice round of applause for Reverend Dusa Althea Rammessirsingh.
Come on up, hot lady.
Never leave the podium.
Okay. Thank you, guys. I feel like sitting down. Body work, that's what I do. That's what I'm going to talk about a little bit, not actually. Body work is a little different than massage. You do the massage, you work with the muscles, but when you say body work, it extends further into the fascia and the arteries and nerves. So it's just a different type of thing that we say in the bodywork world. Anyway, when I start with a client, I often have a prayer of gratitude because I think that is so important. And I suggest to my clients that they go within and listen to what their hearts have to say. So that to me is really an important thing, that I'm not just doing the body, just working with the body. As most times when you go to a body worker, they just touch your body and they do what they're supposed to do. Whatever they feel, they work with. But I feel that there's more to this, that this is an opportunity to encourage people to listen to their guidance, to hear it. Because we all hear guidance, and we don't need, we don't have to go to a priest or anyone else, but we can hear guidance from a friend, from anyone. Someone saying hello to you is guidance, someone smiling at you, because our whole purpose here is to give love. And if we're giving love, we can give it in any form we want. We don't always have to touch someone, but we can do it with words, a smile, great eye contact. All of these things are very important, I feel. And I know people come to me with physical and emotional issues too. And so we have a lot of that. Yesterday I had a guy come in. I haven't had someone like this in a very long time. And the fact that he had injured his knees like 4 or 5 times, not just once. I think he was a soccer player. Injured the knees and the ankles. When he came in, I had to stand there while he just talked to give me all the injuries. I said, it's fine, it's okay, don't worry about it. Then his back was hurting him. It was a very good thing to do. I enjoyed working with him and everything. And when he got up off of the table, he said, I'm going to come back again. And I thought, wow, he could feel what was happening. And I was really very touched by that, because sometimes, you really don't know how people feel after they leave. But this was really good, and he was very joyful. So anyway, there are a couple of, I wanted to talk about my guidance, that I feel like often in these moments, I become still and ask for guidance. So what can I say to this person? I know what to say. I give them exercises to do that. I know what to do. But how do I guide them into their own way of expressing love and being who they are? So whatever comes to my mind, I say it to the person. And I think that is true guidance. And I have a quote here. Oops, where is it? All things are lesson God would have me learn. So when I'm working with this person, I know I have a lesson to learn. It doesn't have to be like something, I don't go search through my mind, oh, what lesson is he trying to teach me? The only lesson there is love. What else would I want to give him? And by my touch, and my touch is loving, whatever I do, to me, that's the important thing, is to give love when you touch a person, or when you see a person, that is it. And then we all know that a happy outcome to all things is sure. And as I said, when he got off the table, he was happy and he wants to come back again. So to me, I experienced a happy outcome. And after that, later on in the evening, I went downstairs and there were 2 people from the building downstairs. And that was really great. We had a conversation where we just laughed. And it made me realize That is one of the most important things we forget to do, is to laugh. We need to laugh and smile. I mean, you don't have to do ha ha ha, but just a smile, the tenderness of it, the kindness of it. It expresses love, and that's what we're here for. Thank you.
Yay.
Okay, thank you, Reverend Dusa Althea. Okay, so last but not least, of course, we have again one of our new ministers, but not the newest batch anymore, since we have ordained a group since we ordained them. So Reverend Lucas had their first talk, sermon, whatever you want to call these, a couple of weeks ago. And I just want to really thank Reverend Lucas for really bringing us and our congregation into a new age of gender awareness. Reverend Lucas is transgendered and isn't identifying as either male or female, and would like us all to refer to them in the plural, with the plural. So
Singular they.
what's that?
Singular they.
Singular they.
Yes.
Oh, wow, okay.
You've been doing perfectly, actually.
Oh, well, thank you. But I wanted to, before I brought Reverend Lucas up, I wanted to tell you that I read something the other day about how prevalent, and much more prevalent this is actually with a lot of new people, young people, coming up feeling not truly identified with either gender, that this is actually something that is quite prevalent and growing in awareness. And I actually think it's because of the work of all of our spiritual people have done with lessening our body identification. I think we have put this into the collective consciousness that we're not our bodies, so a whole new generation is coming up not feeling that identified with the plumbing of their bodies. And I think that's what we see reflected. So thank you for bringing us into the new age. Let's give a nice round of applause to Reverend Lucas Sanchez.
This is on? Okay.
Yeah.
I think it is on.
You are
Thank
on.
you so much
You are on.
for
Well,
that
you're welcome,
introduction. Wow. Yeah. I don't even know. Just good morning and hello, everybody. Yes, I had my first talk, which was 20 minutes and very scary. But I did it, and I'm going to do more from
Oh yeah.
now on. So on the topic for today about work, I did Community Voices last year, and I was thinking about where I was at that time at work. I had started my new job. I was there about a little under 3 months, first year teaching. And it was a brand new experience, and then being at Glide, wonderful organization, Glide, and church as well. And and realizing that it is very important to get along with your coworkers, especially if you're going to be spending 40 some hours a week with them, 9 to 5, Monday through Friday. This is the first. That was I'm no longer there, but I just recently changed new jobs. But I will get to that next. Yes, 9 to 5. Fortunately, not in front of a computer. Thank you very much. With children, young children, preschool age, 3 to 5. Really beautiful, beautiful age. I feel so fortunate that I am able to be with them. Getting back to coworkers or teachers, I had a struggle with one of them in particular. And it was hard to start off with. I usually get along with everybody. I'm a pretty chill person, so being in a situation where someone is perceivably doesn't like me or the way that I do things is really challenging for me. And but things have progressed. I've really prayed about this relationship, and I am happy to tell you now that we're friends now, and that when leaving my job at Glide, it was she's a very emotional person, just like me, and she was crying. She's like, I'm so sorry for the way that I treated you. And I'm sorry that if I hurt your feelings. And she said, you're a good person. I know that you are. And she hugged me. And it was a few days later, I think she called me and she said, there's a couple of books for you. We ended up talking on the phone for quite some time. And this is the course working. I prayed about this, and now we have this relationship, which I plan on keeping in contact with her, and that is a blessing. And one thing that my concentration, I guess, for this past year and for some time, that has been to, in work, in my vocation, to give and receive love. Particularly working so closely with the kids. I felt that's what they needed and what I needed as well. And one hard thing is that there were times when the kids would say, "Hey, I love you." I'm like, not sure what to say back. But then I got to a point where I was able to say, "Oh, I love you too. You're awesome."
That's nice. That's opening.
It is. And so there's a lot has happened in this past year. I was able to, I have been out here at CMC for quite some time now, but I was able to be out at work as non-binary, just right before the Trans March, which was awesome. And my fears were unfounded. Everyone was really accepting. Everyone's like, okay, sure. And yeah, no problem. And and then it took them a while to get, because I changed name. I've been going by Leslie. Leslie's my birth name, and I'm now going by Lucas now. And so it took them a while, but they were just good about it. Pronouns, another story. That's a little bit harder. They, them. I get it. That's something that I'm continuing on with my new job as well. And when an opportunity came up at work, and this is, I think, going into my new thing about my new focus at work is, with the help of ACIM, is to actually just be happy at work, to be happy where I'm at, to be in a situation that's good and fitting for me. And when an opportunity came up to change jobs, I took it. So I am now at a cooperative nursery school, which is only 0.8 miles away from my house. So I can't beat the commute. I can't beat it. I can walk there, but I don't walk because I bike. Yes, it's wonderful. And I'm in an environment where it's just that I get along beautifully with the teachers already. And it's a beautiful thing. So as I go on, I just want to, I'm already set up. Everyone's just so wonderful over there. And so, yeah, here's to be actually being happy at work. Woohoo! Thanks.
Okay, great, thank you. Before we give a final round of applause to all of our speakers, I just wanted to focus in on something that is in the reading. So the reason this reading is here is because it's Labor Day, and I'm really glad Reverend Lucas talked about vocation, because it's the line about vocation. It says, the Holy Spirit is the Spirit of joy. He is the call to return with which God blessed the minds of his separated sons. This is the vocation of the mind. So all of us have a labor, all of us have a job, all of us have a vocation, and that's to tune into the Holy Spirit, the Spirit of joy, and express that here to everyone that we encounter. And I heard a lot of joy here today. I think we are all doing our job. We're all doing our labor. Yay! Let's thank our speakers. We got Reverend Roxie, Gilbert, Reverend Peter Graham, Reverend BHA, Reverend Dusa Althea, and Reverend